Did you know AbortController can cancel timeouts in React? Let me show you how. Here I have a component, and in this component, I have a useEffect. Now, the useEffect has only one dependency, called foo, which means it will still run on component mount, but if I change the useState variable foo, it will re-render, which will trigger an unmount and a remount. Notice that I also have a useRef at the top of my component called ControllerRef, and the reason why will become clear shortly. I also have a function called handleRemount, which will listen for button clicks on the remount button and trigger the whole component to re-render. And of course, I have a function called handleAbortClick, which is the handler for the on-click of the button down below. The idea is to run a timer when the useEffect starts, but have a way to cancel it before it can complete. It will also get canceled if I cause the component to get unmounted. First, let me show you what happens if I refresh the page and do nothing. Now, this has a 5-second timer and will let us know what happens when it's done. There we have it, the timeout completed. Now if I refresh and click the button before the timer can complete, boom, you will not see the timer finish its cycle. Next, watch what happens when I refresh the page and trigger a remount. The old timer gets aborted and the new timer is started, which I can also abort if I want to. Now let's dig into how this is done. Inside handleAbortClick, I'm using a reference to my AbortController, since it can change on every re-render. From here, I make sure the controller hasn't already been aborted before I try to abort it. Also note that I am passing the reason for this abort through this function. Now let's go down into the useEffect. Inside my useEffect, I am initiating a new AbortController on mount and setting it up against my useRef var. When my useEffect runs, it tells me it's starting. Then the setTimeout runs, and in the body of the setTimeout, I check to see whether the signal has already been aborted, and if not, issue a console log, and then an intentional abort with another message. Down below, I add an event listener to the actual signal so that we can find out what happened no matter where it gets aborted, and I can make sure to clear the timeout. And finally, I get to my cleanup function where I can issue an abort for purposes of cleanup, along with the reason. Now, if you've ever had to control some kind of asynchronous function from multiple areas and take care of the cleanup, you know how awesome this is. And you can do the same thing with fetch. Say you're performing a fetch that's taking too long and you want to have a button to cancel it. This would be exactly how you do that, since fetch will also take a signal as an option. There's so much more to learn about abort controllers, but unfortunately that's all we have time for now. Stay tuned for more tips on React. Happy coding!